Welcome boys and girls, Christine here with a discussion about Total War Warhammer 3 Hotfix 6.3.4 that Creative Assembly has just announced. Following the hotfix for last week's FLC issue, we promised to keep you updated on the direction of travel towards the next game update. And this week we're continuing our work to 6.3.4. We start our testing later this evening, continuing through the weekend and right across all of next week. Damn, I gotta feel bad for the QA testers, but I guess if there is a silver lining in all of this is the fact that Creative Assembly does actually have a QA testing team on Warhammer 3 at the moment, which, you know, up until this point it really felt like they did not, because there's many issues that have been present in the game for a long time that they haven't resolved. But anyway, what are the key issues? Idle armies, Chaos Dwarf recruitment, and Maneater idle AI campaign behavior. Nothing on the Changeling, but that's a more complicated affair with the Changeling because, like with the Beastmen, you need to tread carefully with the Changeling and the Beastmen, I think. And I'm glad that CA is not rushing into that because there's ways that could blow up. And I think CA just doesn't want that to happen. But anyway, as things stand today, idle armies is something that we have a positive outlook on. The issue itself is presently believed to be a complication of several different issues, all conflicting with one another, and causing the behavior that many of you have highlighted across our communities, where you see multiple armies standing around settlements and not taking any actions in your campaign. So they've looked to address the problems they've discovered, with the campaign AI prioritizing defense tasks to aggressive. A lovely bit of irony on that subject, because it used to be that AI was very aggressive. By the way, the AI is also very aggressive, but it's also too defensive at the same time right now. So we'll get into that once I start the game, but yes, there are reasons why this is happening, and they're looking to improving it, but they're in an early stage of that testing. With Chaos Dwarfs, they're showing an early sign of improvement, and they've observed that they hadn't been recruiting higher tier units on a consistent basis. And some of the changes that they've developed are giving us an early indicator that we're starting to see some success in changing it. There's issues with the Chaos Dwarfs as well. I think the problem has to do with the fact that AI will recruit units to a certain point. It won't dismiss troops it has. It will have a certain number of armies. So what ends up happening with Chaos Dwarves, they recruit a bunch of stuff early on in the campaign, but then they stop recruiting because they've basically reached their army cap, as it were. And then Maneater has had their campaign AI reviewed and has now started to show consistent interaction with the campaigns. But he's also prone to properly attacking and expanding his territory. And the issue with that is he can become really powerful. Of course he can. Ogres are ridiculously good, and if you look at Maneater's campaign dynamic, he can steamroll the entirety of Osland, the entirety of Norland with ease, even Midland, because the only one who could stand in his path there is Festus. Like, Castalton is busy with other stuff, and they're not at war. Katrin is busy with other stuff, so Maneater is in a situation where the only one who can contest him is Festus. And suffice to say, Maneater is stronger than Festus, at least from an AI to AI perspective. One of the notable things that they are mentioning here is that these fixes they're working on right now are not going to work on existing saves. Rather, you're going to have to start a new campaign. They do want to make them work on existing saves, but that's not exactly their goal right now. Right now it's to fix new campaigns, and it makes sense given, you know, DLC priorities and player-based situation. And then there's a bunch of other improvements that they're adding in all of this. Here's what the problem is from my perspective with all the hours I have in Warhammer 3. What tends to happen with AI behavior is that AI tends to make decisions based on its perceived strength. So if the AI thinks it's stronger than an opponent, they're going to attack and destroy that opponent, assuming they're at war. The decision to go to war is a different kettle of fish on that subject. But essentially, if an AI army is stronger, or if the AI thinks it has a stronger army than an opponent, they will attack said opponent. They'll also seek to attack smaller and less defended locations, because that's a higher chance of success. The crucial aspect, however, in all of this is the AI's score keeping is not exactly great. You as a human figure out pretty quickly which armies can defeat other armies, right? Like if you're going to attack a settlement, a provincial capital, you kind of know what your chances are, especially if there's an army in there. The AI also believes that, but its score does not match reality, because obviously the AI is auto-resolving constantly. Why is that important? Because it creates a situation where the AI will attack settlements thinking, or armies thinking it will win, and then it will lose in auto-resolve. So it's not correctly seeing the result of battles. Basically, the auto-resolve score is not necessarily tied together to the AI score, which, by the way, makes sense considering the fact that your auto-resolve score is affected by the battle difficulty, not stats modifiers. So battle difficulty affects the AI behavior in an individual battle, but it also affects how the AI is using its resources on the campaign map. It gives it a diminished or improved auto-resolve score. Changing it does affect the AI behavior, but there is absolutely a balance issue in that. So when you see AI armies, say, of Skaven, right? If we consider Tretch as a perfect example. Let's say you're playing Forgrim, and you take the World Edge Archway, and then Tretch declares war on you. He will rush for World Edge Archway, even if it's only held by a couple of Dwarf units or no units at all, and then he'll lose army after army if they're Skaven Slaves or Clan Rat secondary armies. Now, in Tretch's mind, his small little Skaven mind, he thinks that he has an advantage, and realistically he would win that battle, but because of the actual auto-resolve score of Dwarves who have high armor versus Skaven ones which don't, that means you can, with just a lord, a couple of units, you can defeat entire stacks of Skaven, assuming units are at full strength. That is the behavior. On the flip side, you get the alternative behavior where the AI is not attacking because it believes the opponent is stronger. And I think that has to do with individual army strength. So vampire counts, for instance, the problem that they have, why they idle with so many armies, they use Raise Dead to get 6+ armies of skeletons and zombies, but the AI is not making decisions based on the idea, okay, I got 4 armies, let me throw these guys against the player or against an opponent. No, the AI is thinking, okay, is this army individually stronger than an opponent? Sure. The AI is also using multiple armies, and it does know how to use them. But I think you also have that specific behavior where the AI is considering it's making decisions based on individual army strength. So that's why you end up with vampire counts having a lot of passive armies that don't attack often, because the AI knows those armies are very weak. But since, vampires can bring 4 armies for any one of yours, then obviously that gives them an actual advantage in battles. Like 4 armies of skeletons and zombies, you can wipe those out, but you gotta be careful, and it's certainly gonna be a hard fight. So that is why you get this decision making. Then you of course consider lightning strikes, you consider ambushes as well that do exist in a campaign. So you have all of these dilemmas for the AI, and it seems what's broken is the AI can't decide, am I going to attack or am I going to sit on my ass? It will attack if it thinks it will win. It won't attack if it thinks its individual armies aren't going to win. So that's why you get that situation with AI. And it does affect vampire counts to a fairly large extent. Because, again, they rely so heavily on the Raise Dead mechanic for their units. And by the way, the problem with Raise Dead, they get a lot of benefits for Raise Dead units, and compared to, say, the baseline, but it's mostly going to be, again, zombies and skeletons, which, yeah, that's going to create issues. Now, as for the Changeling and Beastmen, they should tread more carefully on that subject. And the reason they should tread more carefully on the subject of the Changeling and Beastmen is they can either make things really annoying or they can make things a cakewalk. Right now, dealing with a Changeling is a cakewalk. If you're playing Carl, Kazrak is always going to suicide himself against Altdorf. That is typical Kazrak Beastman behavior. I mean, he'll even leave the rest of Midland alone just because he wants to suicide against Altdorf. It's just a Kazrak special in Warhammer 3 right now. But there are ways on how Creative Assembly could fix that. Truthfully, that should have been fixed a while ago, but that's water under the bridge. That's all I had to say. Hopefully it does get improved. And yes, it can be improved with regards to that. I think one of the bigger problems that we do have in Warhammer 3 is this. The auto-resolve score that you get as a player specifically is dependent on battle difficulty. It should not be. The auto-resolve score should not change based on difficulty. It should be purely based on army strength. And then on top of that, you also have the fact that settlements also have an inherent auto-resolve benefit. And when you're adding that complication of difficulty levels and settlements having auto-resolve benefits, you end up having some fairly serious issues. Just in general, improving auto-resolve would do a lot to help AI behavior. Because obviously the AI wants to win. So when you see the AI suiciding itself or sitting on its ass doing nothing, then those are clearly problems. But those are AI decision issues that happen also because of auto-resolve. Because the AI is going to... What tends to happen? The AI will attack a location, lose a couple armies, and then it'll be more cautious on attacking that same location because it just got smashed, right? Unless it thinks it can win, and unless it's certain that it can win. That's why if you ambush the AI in a certain location, you're not likely to ambush them twice in the same location for a while, right? Until the AI thinks it's safe. We know that behavior exists. Again, problems are auto-resolve, spreading out, especially the settlement auto-resolve benefit, the difficulty auto-resolve situation, etc. Costin signing out. Stay tuned for more.